What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel for episode 3 of my bootcamp journal. P-days are officially over, so we're going to move on to the few days that happened after P-days. And to those of you that have been following along, thank you, I appreciate it. It's only going to get better from here. Day 7. P-days are officially over. I hear from everyone that it gets much easier from here on, although PT has officially started. We packed up our bags last night and got ready to move to our permanent home in the USS Arizona. It was a pretty long morning. We had to go to medical to finish up getting the rest of our shots. We finished all the dental work and I found out I have no cavities. Can't wait to shove that in my wife's face, haha. We all lined up just like you see in the movies, single file line through the medical so they could shove needle after needle in all 88 of us. The peanut butter shot wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but still felt extremely uncomfortable. We lined up along 2 long tables, 18 at a time, and looked each other in the eyes while we felt the cold liquid shoot into our asses. Everyone kind of laughed at the fact that it was so uncomfortable, which took all the awkwardness away. Medical was probably one of the most boring days, but it was like one of the simplest. You sit on the floor all the time in boot camp, so you're all sitting on the floor in medical, crisscross applesauce, and in line, and they call you up, line by line or alphabetically, however they do it, and you just single file line, walk down the line. They show you exactly where to step in the little spots. You take a step forward, somebody on both sides shoots a needle into your arm, and you just down the line. The peanut butter shot, I know a lot of people say that the peanut butter shot was like terrible, but it wasn't really that bad. It's very uncomfortable, I'll say. You line up along these 2 tables, and you got somebody directly across from you staring at you, and they tell you to put one foot behind the other, pull your pants down over your butt cheek, and bend over. And it's uncomfortable. It doesn't hurt that bad, but it's just such a weird feeling. And then it hurts to sit down for a couple of days. You gotta sit there and rub it out to make it feel better. Getting down from your rack kind of hurts, especially if you're on a top rack, jumping down. It's like, oh. And then they make you run your first PFA either right afterwards or the day afterwards, which really sucks. Fast forward a couple of hours, and we finally finished all of our medical exams. We returned to our temporary compartments for the last time and had a 2-hour visit with our chaplain. I really like how many motivational meetings they incorporate into this whole bootcamp experience. It's a massive help when we're feeling down. It makes us reflect on our reasonings for choosing this life and kicks our homesickness into overdrive. You never really know how simple you have it until it all changes. So again, the chaplain's meetings are basically just your RDCs leave and then the chaplain comes in, and it's just this completely different environment. It's super relaxed, you feel comfortable, you can tell the chaplain anything. It's really nice to have that, momentary break from the harshness, I guess you could say, of boot camp. But don't worry, it comes crashing down after the chaplain meeting is over. At the chaplain meeting, we laughed, we cracked jokes, we were at peace for a moment, but like all good things in this place, they must come to an end. And oh boy, did they come to an end. The RDCs came back into the compartment and advised us to put all of our outer garments on, which consists of our hoodie, super heavy raincoat, ridiculously thick beanie and gloves, and grab both our backpacks and sea bag, which contain all of the items we packed away from our racks, which is easily 40 pounds of shit, and get in a height line. Now normally, this wouldn't be too difficult, but they wanted us to shove our backpack in our sea bag, which was already stuffed full. Not only did that complicate things, but all our sea bags were mixed up, so we actually had to locate them first. The RDCs love to give us tasks that are impossible to accomplish, so I knew that they would get frustrated with waiting and tell us to just grab one, which they did. But since we were missing nearly 30 recruits from our division due to them going into the nuke field and requiring additional medical work, all of us had to double up on carrying their shit as well. So the RDCs have a habit of doing this. They will give you a completely impossible task, but they do this on purpose, and I totally understand why now that I'm out of boot camp and in the fleet. They give you an impossible task, and they do it to see how you react to it. So if they see somebody, if they tell you to do something and they know that you can't do it, if they see you freak out about it, they know that you're going to be an issue. But if they see you, bust your ass and do what you can to get this done, they're going to have a lot of respect for you in the end. Guarantee it. So we did, occasionally passing bags around whenever someone's arm started to hurt, for 1 mile. Our ship is pretty damn far from where our compartment was, but we arrived smooth sailing. Even though we were exhausted from the walk, the fun had just begun. All those threats that Chief made in the past came to fruition when our bathroom PO accidentally called Chief a petty officer again. He dropped him, made him get in the push-up position, and started to drill him. But he didn't think that was enough, so we all got dropped. They demanded that we follow their rhythm to up-down, all while screaming at everyone. It was day one all over again, with the added bonus of push-ups. So our ship, the USS Arizona, when you pull into boot camp, I believe the USS Pearl Harbor, where all the temporary barracks are at, the compartments that you stay in, they're all like the first building on the left or something like that. And our ship, that each different building has its own name. We were in the USS Arizona, which is ship 14, and it is the furthest one away from the USS Pearl Harbor. It's literally a mile. And I believe it took us like 45 minutes to march there, like 30 to 45 minutes to march there. And we have all of our stuff on, and we have our backpack on. We're carrying 2 sea bags because a lot of the nuke guys, we had a lot of nukes in our division, but they all require additional screening and stuff for their field. And so they're off doing that while the rest of us get the pleasure of carrying all of their shit as well. So we're all marching, we're all bundled up. It was cold in the winter because I was in boot camp in the winter in Chicago. So it was like 5 degrees or something like that. But they just over-exaggerated a bit with how much they want you to wear and how much they want you to bundle up. And it was just, it sucked marching all the way there with all that stuff. So we're all passing sea bags back and forth between each other as soon as our arms get tired. Now that we were done with medical, we were officially allowed to be beaten by our RDCs. If anybody did anything wrong, they would say, "Drop, motherfucker," and you were on your face doing push-ups, you were doing 10 counts, whatever they wanted you to do. They had a little orange card with a workout routine on it, and they could only beat you to the workout routines that are on their little card, which is kind of nice. You kind of know what's coming. It's not like going to be some random bullshit that they want you to do. But they won't hesitate to put you through that card multiple times. I could do the majority of the push-ups, occasionally having to drop a knee to catch my breath, but the room was filled with the sound of total torture. I don't think many of these kids have done much physical activity because I'm pretty sure half of them were crying. I didn't feel so weak anymore. The PT didn't last super long, maybe 15 minutes, but I'm pretty sure that's because it was time for chow and we can't be late for that. So you have a very strict schedule in boot camp. Everything, literally everything that you do is planned out. You need to be at this place at this certain time, this division's going to chow at this time, you need to come down at this time, and you can't be late for that, otherwise it throws everything off and the RDCs can actually get in trouble. So if they're ever telling you, hurry the fuck up, that's why. It's because they have a schedule to run by too. I was just afraid we would get dropped after returning from chow, but we didn't. It was smooth sailing the rest of the night. We got to hygiene and get clean in our new shower room, which is a big open space instead of shower stalls like the compartment had. It allows much more people to shower at a time, which is nice for reducing stress during shower time, even if we are dick to ass now. So when you're in your compartment, it's like your beginning compartment, you have shower stalls and you constantly rotate out of. But when you get to your ship, it's just a big open room with a shower pole in the middle that sprays water at you. So yeah, you're showering with a bunch of dudes in the same compartment or a bunch of chicks in the same compartment, depending on your gender. We're learning quickly what we have to do to make things run as smooth as possible. Tonight we tried something new that the chaplain had recommended after taps. We have 5 minutes of absolute silence. We do this to help build respect for each other. Some people use this time to pray, while other people use it to study. For me, it's when I start writing. It helps me reflect on what happened in the day, but it also serves as a reminder of how far we've come as a division. These coming weeks are going to challenge us physically, but I know in my heart that we will pull through. We've all prepared for this experience for months now. For me, 5 months. What's 2 more? We've got this. I kiss my ring once again and hope my wife is doing the same. I love you, Maggie. Day 8. Today has been a rough day for me so far. I believe we are officially out of P days, so we took our first PFA, Personal Fitness Assessment. I did pretty average on both push-ups and sit-ups. I got 47 push-ups and 55 sit-ups, which is really good compared to everyone else. Some of the guys only did like 10 push-ups, so I did pretty well. The run, however, I struggled a lot. They notified us that we had to get our run done 1.5 miles, 12 laps in 18 minutes and 10 seconds. Otherwise, we had to retake it. If we fail the retake, we get kicked out of boot camp. I finished in 14 minutes, I think, but I may have miscounted on my laps. I really hope I didn't. So, I practiced, quite a bit before leaving for boot camp. I mean, not a whole lot, obviously. I didn't do that great. It's like a good low or something like that, so it's barely passing. But I practiced enough to where I knew I could pass and I wouldn't get kicked out of boot camp. But again, I don't really think a lot of these guys had any sort of physical experience at all with this boot camp thing. And so, I mean, some people literally only did like 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups and stuff like that. It was pretty bad. My chest hurt so bad after I finished that run. There are dozens of us who are all coughing now. It seems that run made us sick instantly, me included. It sucks knowing that I'm on the brink of disappointing my family. When you run in that building, I don't know what it is about that building, but every single time that I had to do a PFA in there, I was sick the moment I stopped running. I mean, coughing, wheezing, it was bad. And I'm not the only one. There were tons of people. I don't know what it is about that building. It's just like a cesspool of germs. It's gross. After the run, our RDCs made us put on all of our outer garments and march all the way back to the USS Pearl Harbor, where our old compartment was, a mile away. It was finally time to get our paychecks figured out, so we entered the bank side of the Pearl and began our paperwork. I was the only person in my division that was married, with dependents, and needing a security clearance, so I went first. It was a pretty long process, but it was a relief to get a distraction from the RDCs. And you'll appreciate these moments a lot if you decide to go to boot camp. You have to go and do this paperwork, fill out this stuff, go to this place, do this, and you get lots of breaks from your RDCs. So don't think that boot camp is like just this. You're stuck in a room and they drill you and they scream at you all the time. I mean, they do it a lot, but it's not nearly enough as I thought it would be, because you're busy throughout all of boot camp. There's always something that you need to go do. I had to do my security screening for it again, only this time it was legit. It was behind closed doors, tape recorder and all. He asked me the typical questions like criminal record history, drug history, financial history, etc. And then gave me the best news I had heard since I got to this place. I fucked up on my paperwork and had to call home to get information. Hearing that I had to call home to get more information to fix my paperwork was the best news ever. Because I hadn't talked to my wife in 3 weeks. I hadn't talked to my kids in forever. And so that was the highlight of the week. I, of course, hopped at the chance. He sat me in the phone room that had other people doing the same thing. I stared at the phone for a second, preparing myself to sob in front of strangers. I dialed my wife's phone number and heard it ring for what seemed like 5 minutes, but she answered and I had no idea what to say. I immediately started crying when I heard her voice. Ages had passed since I last talked to my wife, and it was extremely overwhelming to finally say hi. She asked how I was doing, and I told her the truth. I was struggling, but I was okay. She told me that she received my belongings already and the gift and card I left in there for my daughter. It was a souvenir snow globe from the Seattle airport, something small but so meaningful. She told me that she plays with it all the time and loves it. She's been making her bed in the morning, so Daddy will come home and be proud of her. Things like that, the little things that a 5-year-old says, can make or break you. This particular instance did both. It broke my heart, but also gave me so much motivation to get through this. My wife then asked me if I wanted to speak to my daughter, and for a moment, I wanted to say no. I didn't know if I could handle it. But how could I not talk to the little beautiful smile that I missed so much? I had to. So I did. I couldn't say much because I didn't want to sob even more, but she told me some random story like she always does. She told me she loved me and she missed me. Those words were pure gold to me. I knew I wouldn't be able to hold her attention for long, so I let her go and continued discussing the details of why I called. I couldn't talk for long, so I told her I had to go, and she gave me her words of encouragement. No matter what Maggie and I go through, she's always there for me, and I will be eternally grateful for that. So when I got to make this phone call, it was probably one of the hardest phone call I've ever had to make. You're going through all of these things, and you get so disconnected from everything back home that the moment you hear, your wife or your mom or your sister, as soon as you hear your family's voice, you just get so overwhelmed with so many different emotions, and it's hard to hold back. All those emotions just come pouring out, and especially when she asked me if I wanted to talk to my daughter. I was so close to saying no. Like, I didn't know if I could do it. There's other people in the room. It's kind of embarrassing. You don't want to sit there and cry in front of people, but you can't help it sometimes. And a lot of people had this same exact issue. Day 10. I was so ridiculously tired yesterday that I didn't even have time to write. We got dropped twice, and I was beyond exhausted. It's starting to piss me off how simple-minded some of these people are. They just won't shut up and continue to talk when both of our ARPOC and Master-at-Arms are trying to silence them. They also started a new rule where we have to iron our towels, skivvies, shirts every night, which means we have to sacrifice sleep on top of doing watch. No one wants to do watch anymore because it consists of greeting all of the RDCs that come into the compartment, and if you fuck it up, you get dropped. If they ask you a question from the training guide and you get it wrong, you get dropped. If it's a chief and you fail to recognize that and call him a petty officer, you get dropped. Oh, did I mention that I have watch in the morning? Fuck. Oh well. I know most of the shit that they've been asking the watch guys anyway. So, I made sure that I was beyond prepared as far as like the education side of things went before I came into boot camp. Your chain of command, ranking recognition, you have to know all of that stuff before you go into boot camp. Otherwise, you're going to have a really hard time. You don't have a whole lot of time to study unless you want to sacrifice sleep on it. So if you can prepare yourself a couple months before boot camp and get all of this knowledge flowing, it will help you out so much. And it made things a lot easier. Today we got dropped 3 times. Even though they were relatively short, it still sucked. But I found a way to cheat the system. I volunteered for laundry crew. They're always busy, so I'll be spending a lot of time with those guys, and we'll be able to skip at least a little bit of the PT a day. If there is one recommendation that I could make to you before going into boot camp, is that volunteer for laundry crew right from the get-go. Not only is it a lot of fun to be able to, skip certain things, if they're getting beat in the morning, you can kind of just say, oh, I have laundry to do, and you can disappear into the laundry room. You get really close with your laundry crew. I miss all those guys. You get certain perks with doing a divisional job like that. Don't do the head PO, though. That one is terrible. You have to clean up after every single person in your division. If somebody pees on the toilet seat and you don't clean it up, you're going to be the one to get in trouble for that. That's probably the worst job that you can go for. It's only the 10th day in this place, and I miss my family more than ever. This is so much harder than I thought it would be. I keep going back and forth in my mind with self-doubt and not knowing if I have what it takes to make it through this. The running aspect of it especially. The PFAs scared the shit out of me. There's also a 20-minute sustained run that we're supposed to do at some point in time, and I just keep thinking to myself that I know I can't do it. I keep trying to keep my kids in the back of my mind, but without that support system physically here, I feel like I'm crumbling apart. So, as you can tell, my mindset when I was in boot camp was pretty dark. As a lot of people's are, there are a lot of people who, going into it right off the bat, have lots of doubts about themselves, lots of reservations with whether or not they can make it through this. And I was no exception. There were a lot of people who intentionally failed the first PFA because they just decided they couldn't do it anymore. And so I'm just glad that my mindset was in a good enough place to where I could pull through it and get what I needed to get done. I really wish I could get mail from my wife right now. Something to let me know that they're thinking of me. But the RDCs said the same damn thing that they said last week. No mail till next Sunday. Fucking bullshit. Some of us really need to hear from our loved ones. There are so many things that can ruin your chances at graduating, it's ridiculous. I can only hope for the best. It's 22:25 right now. I'm in my rack and there are people everywhere in here. We're only allowed to have 7 people out of the racks at one time, so if an RDC were to walk in right now, we would be so screwed. But that's the last thing on my mind right now. If it's 22:25 here, then it's 20:25 at home, and my wife is most likely awake. I wonder what she's doing. I hope she's thinking of me. Good night, babe. I love you. So, again, we had the whole 7 people out of your rack at a time, but everyone would break that rule. You know, everybody would be getting up, doing things. There are people that would shower after taps. You really get in trouble for that one, even though we did it a lot. One of my favorite things to do in boot camp, though, was after taps was obviously write and then study. Me and the laundry crew guys would actually hang out in the laundry room. We had this little back room where we would sit and study, and we'd sit on the laundry bags that were full of clothes and stuff and just constantly quiz each other. I think we helped each other a lot when it came to like our little knowledge tests and everything like that. But I think that is where we're going to leave the videos for today. So once again, thank you guys for following along on my bootcamp journal. If you like this video, please go ahead and subscribe right down here. There's going to be many more to come. And if you know anybody who's thinking about joining, or if you're thinking about joining, please give this video a share, let your friends know, and let's just get people in there. See you later, guys.